first generation farmers, so people that didn't grow up on farms but that have decided to farm anyway. And the reason that I chose this group is because I was really interested in the learning process that farmers go through. And I felt that it would be obviously very different for someone who didn't grow up on a farm and sort of assimilate that kind of information through their parents and uncles and other people that worked on the farm. And then the other the other part of my investigation on first generation and beginning farmers is really looking at for these farmers and potential ways that they have to overcome them. And I'm going to talk about both of those things a little bit, and I'm also going to lighten it up a little bit by showing a little video and telling a story of one of the farmers, one of the first generation farmers that I work with. Wait, let's go back one. So this is my website, and basically in the education component, I started to do was to try to figure out where first generation farmers, beginning farmers, people that don't know about farming might get their information. And I started looking around the web and I realized there are tons of great web resources. But there wasn't at the time a very good compilation of all of these sources. Nobody had put together sort of a central clearinghouse where you could go to find information about you probably can't read these. Funding, finding land, jobs and internships, farm business planning, farm incorporation, risk management, training practices. And I've worked really hard at incorporating as many links as I can find to the best information that I can find about these kinds of things. And I think, a really good resource for anybody to start looking for specific information about starting to farm, and is valuable too for established farmers because it really does have a lot of comprehensive information. So I put this slide on here to illustrate. This is August
Excuse me.
2009 to 2010. This is the website, and I put this up here not to toot my own horn, but to illustrate how much of a need there was for this, and how much people are starting to find it and use it. And so that's really pleased me that it actually is being used. You can go to the next slide. Now, one of the things that I was really interested in is as I started going through and looking at the fixed pages, those were the ones on the left side on the column. I also have a blog that was on the right side. And this would be the blog page, the home page. I started noticing trends of where people were going. And when I first started thinking about this, I thought people needed to know how to grow produce. And I was somewhat surprised to find that funding resources, farm business planning, finding land to farm, and those kinds of things, urban farming, goat farming, I have no idea why that's so popular.
Because they're
But
adorable.
not to knock goats at all, but and so I started to do some research, talking to people that are running beginning farmer programs, trying to really identify what the biggest barriers are and how to overcome them. And you can go on to the next slide. And what I'm finding from talking to these experts is that almost every single one lists these three as the top three resource limitations for farmers in that order. Almost everybody across the board. And financing, of course, is connected to finding land. But these are they're things that people tend to list separately. Business planning, very, very important. And I had a farmer tell me once, if you want to be a farmer, don't study horticulture. Go to business school because you can learn to grow plants really easily. Well, not really easily, but you can learn to grow plants a lot more easily than you can learn to run a business. And farming takes a lot of different things. You have to be a mechanic, and you have to be a business person, and you have to be a marketer, and you have to be a soil scientist, and it's really difficult to incorporate all of those things, and that's one of the real learning challenges for first generation farmers. Um, in terms of overcoming the barriers, I'm going to just sort of list some of the things that I think are important here, not in any particular order, but based on my ethnographies and work with um, tenacity. Really have to want it, and I've talked to farmers who have visited over 100 pieces of property before they found the right piece of land in the right location with the right soil type that was the right size and the right price. And networking is really important in building resources and talking to people and knocking on doors and calling people up and not being afraid to ask a lot of questions. That's really, really important. If you want it, if the people that succeed are people that wanted it really bad. Um, Patience is really important as well, especially in my interviews with people that are running beginning farm programs. They really emphasize the importance of starting small, and this is actually really connected to the idea of low debt farming. A lot of people want to own their own land right away and their tractor and stuff like that. But if you get really far, first of all, it's hard to find those funding resources, and the lower you can keep your debt level and the slower you can go, the more you can build your farm equity into your own farming operation. And so you have to be patient. You can't just start, right away unless you're rich. And that's sad, but taking out a big loan is a big risk.